John Baker, welcome.
Thank you.
John, when you first started in the business,
Yeah.
what was the lighting process like? I mean, who did the lighting in those days?
Plays in those days didn't have that many cues, so a few cues of lighting, the director was good enough for sort of saying, well, bring me up a light over there or over there, and the electrician, who was then of course on stage with the lighting control, if it can be called a control machine, would be probably a better word, so he didn't see what was going on stage, and the director would say, that's fine, okay. Sometimes the bigger things, well, they might go out and have an assistant doing the actual work on the machine. He would go out and sit with the director, but it was not as many cues as you get nowadays in place.
So what did the basic rig in those days look like?
Surprisingly, when I started, not battens and all that sort of thing as you might sort of think. They were around, we occasionally used them for musicals, those sort of things where you needed to flood the stage with lots of lighting. But for stage work, no, we were using spotlights in various guises. I mean, some sort of focus lanterns, anything that would give you a basic beam of light, with terrible edges usually, lots of striation.
John, what training did you have towards getting into lighting?
Well, I didn't have any training apart from I'm an electrician. When I left school, they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to go into the theatre and do lighting. And they all said, "Oh no, you can't do something like that. No. You mean you want to be an electrician?" And my father rubbed his hands with glee. I mean, I was only 15. Remember, I left school at 15, started work at 15, my father rubbed his hands in glee and said, "Oh, a nice, safe, secure job. And we'll send you off to the electricity board and you can become an electrician." I hated it, of course. And I used to go up to London as well and visit Strand Electric in Floral Street and drive them all crazy by asking questions and collecting samples of lighting colours and all that sort of thing, and help out at the local. We had a lady who arrived in the village in 1953, and she started a set of players called Pilgrim Players, and they put on about 2 plays a year. So I would help them, and I probably ended up knowing more about how the things worked in the village hall than they did. Trial and error, a lot of it.
Once you'd done your training with the electricity board, and you'd obviously been moonlighting in theatre, what was your introduction to real theatre?
My introduction to real theatre was going and seeing shows. I saw a lot of productions. My father was quite good from that point of view. He didn't know I was interested in theatre really, but he was quite good because he enjoyed going to the theatre. So he would take me along and we would see mainly musicals. That was a big thing he liked. Things like Desert Song, I remember well. Obviously each year we would go to pantomimes and all those sort of things where the whole family would go off, and the circus, of course.
Right. And was there a moment that you remember going to theatre where you suddenly went, "This is what I want to do," and particularly about lighting?
No, I'd realised that when I was 9 years old. I was in a play when I was 9 years old, doing a one-liner, as the fish footman in Alice in Wonderland. And so most of my time I was off stage, and I remember going up to the guy who set up the lighting and saying, "Why are those lights up there, one red, one blue and one white?" And he said, "Oh, that's to make everything look real." I sort of thought, really, is that how you do it? I'm sure there's a bit more to it than that. From that point onwards, I just really wanted to sort of prove a point.
Mm-hmm. And was there a lighting designer of the time who in any way inspired you?
Oh, Michael Northern, definitely Michael Northern. I used to love going to see Michael Northern's plays and musicals and operas and operettas, and I would watch amongst sort of. I would always sit in the gods because I couldn't afford to sit anywhere else, and I would watch what was going on around. And Michael Northern, a bit like me, used quite a lot of colour. In fact, Michael wasn't really known as a steel blue and white man. And so I was, oh yes, what's he using in that scene? Oh, I see. And so he's mixing those colours and he's coming up with that effect.
What was your break that sort of took you from being an electrician to being a designer?
I think that happened when I was in the Air Force, and I was sent off to Singapore for 2.5 years. And there I met a lady called Julie Goss, and she ran the theatre club. And the thing that she was really looking for was somebody to do lighting. And as soon as I said lighting, she sort of grabbed me and said, well, you must come in and do all the lighting for us. Nobody else is going to get a chance to do lighting anymore. And really, that's where I sort of started doing things. I lit a lot of shows and sort of started to get known for lighting productions.
When you did eventually get back to the UK and did go into the job market, where did you start?
I started with Joan Littlewood at the Theatre Royal in Stratford East 15, famous now for the Olympic Games. My first play there was Samuel Beckett's, none of the name's gone, Happy Days. And I mean, I'm not a fan of Samuel Beckett. Didn't even know anything about Samuel Beckett until then anyway. And this Irish group came over, 2 people, and a stage manager. And built this pile of sand on stage with this lady, which this lady was then going to sit into up to her shoulders. And the husband, was her real husband, and he was climbing around her back and looking around for this very strange play. And I mean, basically you just had to make people see that there was a pile of sand, but all the focus had to be really on this lady that was sitting in this pile of sand, which I did pretty well, I think.
Then I know that you worked at various other theatres over the years establishing your credentials, but you did end up on the West End with Abelard and Eloise.
That was my first design on the West End, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it was much like doing any design anywhere else. I don't think I thought, oh, well, I'm going into the West End. We just happened to be in the West End, and that's where, you know, I mean, I didn't sort of think, wow, I'm in the West End. I just took it as another job to do. Yeah. But it was a lovely experience. I mean, working with the director was the main thing, because Robin Phillips was a really fantastic director, and I'd done a number of plays before with him. So it was just a fantastic chance to do that.